Hey guys, what's going on? Today it's going to be a market watch for January 27th. Just a quick plug before I begin. I uploaded an updated collection video on my main channel. I'll link that in the description and it will be pinned in the comments. So if you guys want to see my sort of high-end collection, make sure to check out that video. So the first thing we're going to be looking at is a modern collectible. It's the Adidas exclusive Dark Magician. Pretty cool looking card. I don't own one of these. I've never seen one of these in person, but it's a pretty cool looking card from what I can tell online. It sells for about 105 right now. It's getting to the point where, I might consider picking one of these up. Now, I don't think that this card was limited very heavily. Like, to me, this is a card that probably has more than 10,000 copies out there. I don't know if there's an exact number on it, but given the amount of supply I see of this card, I just, you compare it to something like the United We Stand promo, which had, I think, 800 to 1,000. We don't know the exact number for that one, but the other stay-at-home promos, it's at 1,000. Those are way, way harder to find than these. And so I would imagine that this is at least an order of magnitude more common. But it is Dark Magician. It is Adidas, which is one of the most popular sportswear and shoe brands. But overall, it's not a card I've really looked at given the high prices. But you see that how the prices plummeted down. Obviously, on release, it was going crazy over $300. Now it's around $100. I don't know what the buy point for myself is for this card. I'm not a huge fan of these sorts of collab promotional products, but it's a cool looking card, and it's not as common as a lot of a core 21st rare out of rarity collection. It's not as easy to get as that necessarily, and it also is a Dark Magician in the sort of the artwork from the show. So it's an interesting one, but not one that I'm necessarily at a buy yet. And I have been burned recently in the sense that there are a lot of cards that reach the buy point where I was like, oh, I'll buy it at this point. For example, the Ultimate Rare Cyber Dragon out of OTS. And I just didn't buy it, and now it's gone back up. And I'm not going to buy it now where it's more expensive than it was before. Next up, we've got Dark Magician Girl Secret Pharaoh's Rare out of Magnificent Mavens. This is one that I've really been a bit pessimistic about. I'm not a huge fan of the Secret Pharaoh's Rares. I do think that the ones out of Magnificent Mavens are better than the God card versions out of King's Court. However, recently this card has suffered quite a bit, although it seems like there are a number of sales, and it's kind of been selling out to an extent. It looks like someone was up to no good buying it out to a certain extent, and someone else picked some other copies up. It's not one where there are a ton of copies out there. I don't think Magnificent Mavens was a set that was ordered all that much, and there were a ton of these Secret Pharaoh's Rares, and I think a Secret Pharaoh's Rare was the equivalent of one per case. And there were like 25 of them or so. And so this is actually, as hard to get as a Starlight. It's Dark Magician Girl. I don't really like the rarity all that much. I still think it's pretty overrated for what it is, but the supply is pretty low. I'll give it that. Junk Warrior out of Maze of Millennia. This is the quarter century secret rare from Maze. I don't think there are any other quarter century secret rares from Maze of Millennia. I could be wrong about this. I think this is about one per case, so it's similar to a ghost rare. You can see that this card is really coming down in price. A bunch of sales at 26 earlier today. It's already down to 25 or so. So we'll see where this one ends up. I think there are going to be a lot of copies. I don't think that Junk Warrior is that popular of a card, and so I imagine this is something that $20 or so seems about right for this card, but I've been wrong before. This is the card I'm most excited for out of Maze of Millennia. Unfortunately, it doesn't have its picture up on TCG Player yet, but I love the Earthbound Immortals. I'm happy that this new Earthbound Immortal got a collector rare, and it's really plummeted in price, which is something I like to see. Already below $20, which is great. I'll probably pick up at least one of this card. I just think the Earthbound Immortals are one of the coolest archetypes. I wish more of these Earthbound Immortals got collector rares in the set. I'd be all over them, but there is this one, and so I will be picking up Earthbound Servant Geogracia. I don't know. I think the Earthbounds are really, really cool. And, I'm not a huge fan of a lot of the more, anime artwork cards. This, to me, has a flavor that's more similar to the Yu-Gi-Oh that I grew up playing, and so I like this one a lot. Next up, we've got Chimera, the Flying Mythical Beast. This is, a classic Joey card. I think this thing's kind of stupid. I know there was new support for it, but I can't imagine that it's already $12 plus $1 shipping. I mean, this card to me screams like $8 collector rare, $7 collector rare. I just don't think that the cards are good, and I don't think this is actually that nostalgic for people. I think this is going to go in the Dark Honest tier. Now, if I see that this has a good foiling, I might pick it up, but for me, this isn't nostalgic, and I don't think the art is really that good. Next up, we've got Fighting Flame Swordsman. There are some Flame Swordsman cards. I don't know if they're good or not. They might be playable, but it seems like a lot of these are actually doing quite well. And the foiling, I don't know. It's hard to see the actual texture on it from here, but I think these could be some popular cards that people chase after. Although this seems to me like something that, if it's not super playable, it's gonna, maintain some interest while it's the newest, nostalgic thing, and then something more interesting will come out and people will dump this because they don't actually want it. So we'll see where it ends up. This is a card where there's been a lot of controversy surrounding it. Bonfire Collector Rare. Yeah, I mean, for me, I'm not a player. I'm not gonna ever buy something like this. I don't know where people are with $276 collector rares. I just think that it's crazy to, I get people wanting to max rarity their decks, but this to me screams a card that in 2 years will have like some other higher rarity printing as an ultimate rare or some sort of quarter century secret rare, starlight rare, something like that. I can't see collector rare maintaining the high rarity. This could be printed in rarity collection 2. I doubt it because it's so recent, but who knows? Rarity collection 2, that's a different topic, but I think people are going to be surprised what that does to the market, and I think it's going to be way over ordered. And I think rarity 1 collection 1 was a pretty significant success given that there were so many cards that needed reprints. I think when you do it again in a similar way to how Ghost from the Past 2 was not nearly as successful as Ghost from the Past 1, and they had better Ghost rares than Ghost from the Past 2, I think people are going to be all over the pre-orders. They're going to print the set into the ground, basically, and anything in higher rarity is going to not have value. Now, I think it's great for players in the sense that cards are available, which is awesome, but if you're a collector, the high rarity stuff, they're just not protecting it for modern cards, and so I've said it before, but I look at these $160 first edition near mint Chaos Emperor Dragons, and I can't imagine spending so much money on a modern card nowadays, given that I can get these vintage cards for it just seems like a much better deal to me. Here's a kind of GX era vintage card, not the most vintage in the world, but it's an interesting one. Zombie Master. If we filter it to near mint first, I imagine this is probably like $150 or so, $125. Tactical Evolution Ultimate Rares, they're a little bit harder to come by than some of the other GX sets. This is a really cool one. I think it's also quite playable in old formats for zombies, so it's a cool looking card. Next up, we got Ill Blood. This is a pretty iconic artwork for anyone who played during the late GX era. It's an awesome secret rare out of Tactical Evolution. I was just going through some of the Tactical Evolution stuff, and these ones caught my eye. It's only $105 for a near mint first edition. That's actually not nearly as bad as I would have thought. And it seems like there are 2 copies there. It seems like someone else bought one at $105 a couple days back. Actually, there are a couple of sales there. It's an interesting card. I mean, this is one at $105 that doesn't seem terrible to me. I mean, some of these secret rares from the GX era are really hard to get. This is an iconic card. I'm fine with it being around 100. And for me, I look at, Dark Magician, 105 for this Adidas promo, and I look at an original print near mint first edition Ill Blood. For me, the collector in me is more interested in the Ill Blood than the Adidas Dark Magician. But to each their own. I mean, you buy what you like. Next up, we've got Dark Magician, the Knight of Dragon Magic. This, to me, is pretty similar to those Flame Swordsman cards where it was an interesting chase card for some time, and then people lost interest in it, and it's really not performed well at all. in recent months. So you look at it, there were a couple of sales recently at around 36. Near mint still holding out at 36. There's a lightly played at 30 and a half, but I can't see this one going up. And you see that there are a ton of sellers ready to sell at 36. So this is one that I would expect to keep pushing down. However, this is one that I'm interested in. And so even at this price, I'm willing to buy. But, this is one where I'm really looking for a deal when I do buy, given that, I look at how many sellers are sort of holding the line at $36. Eventually, one of them is going to say, I want to make the next sale and put it at 35. We've got another Dark Magician Girl, or another, Dragon Knight Dark Magician card. We've got Dark Magician Girl, the Dragon Knight. This is the original printing out of Dragons of Legend. This is a card that during the pandemic was like super, super expensive, got crazy in price. People were pretty excited about it. I'm interested to, it's fallen out considerably. Wow, $40. This was so much more expensive some time ago. I'm surprised to see it at 40, that's for sure. But looking at what could be in rarity collection, this to me is the sort of card that they might sneak into a rarity collection too, to really give it some more collectible cards in the same vein that they put Ancient Fairy Dragon. I know that there was some support behind it. They had some cards like that in rarity collection too, where yes, it's playable, but it's much more for collectors than I think anything else. And Dark Magician Girl, the Dragon Knight, sort of fits the bill for that. I wouldn't be surprised to see this card in Rarity Collection 2. They're doing a bunch of the alt arts in Rarity Collection 2, and this card has an alt art that does not have a high rarity. I could conceivably see its alternate art in the Rarity Collection 2, and it's a card that in the OCG side had, collector rares. I believe it was in a Rarity Collection or something similar to a Rarity Collection, like one of the premium gold boxes, where there are all these different rarities you can get it in. And so, for me, I think that this is a card that, even though it's come down considerably and it's much more affordable, I think they're going to be doing a reprint of it. And given that its original printing isn't so old, and it is, one of these more, it's not, there's these original sort of vintage looking secret rares. And then once you get to sort of this mid-era 2010s-ish, after they switched from the old Ultimate Rare to the new Ultimate Rare, I think it was in Duelist Revolution, they also switched the secret rare to one that I really don't think looks as nice. They've recently switched it to a new secret rare, which I think is better than this sort of mid-era secret, but I'm not a huge fan of this secret rare in the North American print. The Euro print does look better, but I don't think that this original print is necessarily the nicest looking, and I think it's going to get some higher rarity printings as well. Next up, we've got an Invasion of Chaos old vintage card, Dark Magician of Chaos. This is one I haven't looked at, I don't think, on Market Watch, and so, yeah, you can see it's $130, and so when I look at Chaos Emperor and I see $160, when I look at D-Mock and I see $132, it's a bit hard for me to look at some of these modern collectibles and say, this is a reasonable price for this thing. It's just, this is what you're competing with. You're competing with history. I mean, this card is playable in GOAT format for sure. Really, really powerful card. I think it's one of the best turbo decks. You need this card. And so I think maybe it's banned in GOAT, but I believe this is like a really powerful card in GOAT. And so I just don't see how you can spend on some of these newer collectibles, given where some of the vintage iconic stuff is. Next up, we've got a modern collectible. We've got Magicians of Bonds and Unity, $45. I mean, Age of Overlord is a crazy expensive set. I believe this, now that we've seen Magicians of Bonds and Unity is $45. I think this box is like $120. Yeah, it's crazy, crazy expensive. Now it has, an SP Little Knight at $500. It has a bunch of stuff with tons of value. I mean, the secret rare is $120. That's absurd. But Magicians of Bonds and Unity, these collectible cards that aren't playable, they're not doing too well. Here's another one that I really like, Dark Hole Dragon. This is one that I really wanted to buy, $15, $20, but it's really stuck its heels in the sand at $22, $23. So I'm not in a rush to buy this stuff, but you look at something like this and it reflects the fact that the vintage stuff is just not expensive enough to warrant spending a ton of money on the more modern stuff. Enemy Controller Ultimate Rare, beautiful card, $40, $42. OTS Ultimate Rares have been some of the cards that have lost the most value. I think the luster of the older style Ultimate Rare has kind of fallen out. I mean, the Prismatic Ultimate Rare I think looks kind of cool, but I still prefer this older style, even though this isn't the original style Ultimate Rare per se, but I still think it looks really nice. If you've seen the foiling on it, it's pretty incredible. At $40, I mean, I don't like Enemy Controller enough to, I think, buy it here, but it's a cool card, and I respect people who pick it up here. Finally, we've got a card that, I've put on here a million times. It's Honest Collector Rare. I mean, I really wanted to buy this when it was $20, and again, I wait too long, someone buys it out. I mean, I don't think this is going to stick at 35. I think someone tried to buy it out even higher than 35. I mean, it's a card where these collectors don't have a ton of printings, but I just don't think that this is an iconic enough card that people are chasing after in Collector Rare that they're going to, put so much value into this Collector Rare that it's going to outdo, an Unlimited Ghost Rare. There's the original print Secret Rare as well. There's a lot of good printings of this card from Light of Destruction, and this Collector Rare, while it's cool and I wanted it, it is what it is. I'm not going to pay $40 for it, so that's where I'm at with that. So hopefully you guys did enjoy, like, subscribe, all that sort of stuff. Make sure to check out my collection video. But it's been your boy Watomarmelon. Peace out.